Hello everyone, and thank you for watching this video. I'm Henry, the creator and lead developer of Freya, but you can call me whatever you wish, including my surname, which, may or may not be used in a sea of phallic jokes on Twitch. It shouldn't take you long to find out why. Now before we begin, first a quick life summary, to prove that I'm not some psychotic hobo. Let's see where to begin. I suppose I was just one of those kids that before I learned to walk without tripping, I learned to break things and get yelled at for it, despite putting it back together. Made my first virus at 8, PC at 10, hardware soldering at 12. All that fun stuff when I really should have been reading comic books or Playboy. I don't know, I just found it way more fun. Got my degree in quantum chemistry, so I can stop my parents from cornering me for not being a doctor. And of course, after graduation, instead of making 6 figures like a good little Asian boy from a starving country, I chose to make negative 6 figures by starting a tech company. Because, I'm not stupid. Anywho, broad experience in a large variety of software fields, everything from the classical C++ to the modern VFX, as demonstrated in the trailers, to nanotechnology processing in JP doping, and of course musical synthesis. In other words, if it involves games, I've tried learning about it. Go figure, right? Alright, enough of the pleasantries, let's actually talk about what you're all here for. Freya is a sci-fi cooperative survival shooter with a slice of RPG. In other words, you shoot stuff, you gain levels of money, they use all that stuff to unlock new stuff, they use all that new stuff to shoot bigger stuff. At present, the Alpha 1 just has you shooting stuff, well, try not to die. But don't worry, we got plenty of new content planned. In each match, all players start out at level 1 and get to pick a class. You then work together, or attempt to work together, to survive a set of 10 enemy waves. Make it to the end and you get a big reward. If you are wipe, you get significantly less. Match results will dictate the amount of rank progression and credits that your player account receives, which is then used to unlock new cosmetics, weapons, attachments, and classes. Let's talk about the frost metagame within Freya, shall we? The environment in Freya is quite cold, and temperature management is an important metagame to consider when playing. Everything from enemies, the environment, to equipment and player classes will affect your temperature. If it drops below a terminal point, players will instantly die with no ability to revive. At the same time, when effectively managed, players can receive buffs towards their stats. Next is player classes. The classes, or species within Freya, are designed to function very differently from each other. For example, agile species are the only ones that can wall run. Tank species are not only immune to fall damage, but they're the only ones that can break past certain enclosed environments. Synthetics are nearly invulnerable to conventional forms of damage. And human classes are the only ones that can play in third person for a complete tactical advantage. Now let's talk maps and enemies. I originally programmed the Freya map to be procedural. However, as I developed the AI, I realized an issue. In a procedural map, players too often died of bad luck rather than bad skill. As a result of this issue, the maps in Freya will not change. They are designed for players to get very comfortable with because the majority of the game's challenge will come from its enemies. There are 3 fundamental types of enemies: normals, elites, and bosses. Normals are fairly self-explanatory and simply function as the base of its type. Elites are the most diverse, and they possess a single randomized trait from a large pool, such as teleportation, invisibility, replication, speed boosts, frost quality, toxic, damage resistance, or damage immunity to certain types. The degree of how powerful these traits are randomized and determined by match difficulty as well as the number of players within the game. If all this isn't challenging enough for you, then that's when the bosses come in. Not only do bosses possess abilities that no other enemy types have, but bosses also inherit multiple traits at once. For example, the Seductress can and will switch your control schemes around to hinder you, but on top of that, you might be unlucky enough for her to also be invisible as well as toxic. These traits, their selections and variations are all randomized at spawn. The number of players present and selected difficulty simply increases the likelihood of a harder encounter. Players might end up facing a colossus of a boss on the easiest difficulty, or crush a joke of an encounter on the hardest. With so much variation, each match is designed to feel inherently unique from each other. With all these diverse enemies, the only way to effectively survive will be to balance your gear as well as your team. This leads us to the most requested section of Freya. The Flushed Dahlia. At the Dahlia, players roll their hard-earned cash for permanent unlocks to classes, weapons, attachments, and of course the quintessential cosmetics. There is a titanic amount of content planned in this section, and a unique card game based around the drops. I'll leave it to the community to discover all the details about these drops, but before we end this video, there is something very important I have to clarify. All weapons within Freya are designed to be balanced. Just because a weapon is rare does not mean it is necessarily better. It simply means that it is more specialized. A specific build with a specific weapon can be extremely powerful, but the same goes for a default weapon in the hands of a skilled player. With that said, I highly encourage the community to make overpowered builds. I have a unique habit of preferring not to ever nerf. I simply buff everything else to balance things out. Anyways, thanks for your time guys. Happy gaming.
Twisty's Asylum Escapades. Sure, it's crazy, but fun doesn't have to make sense.